Welcome to the JusMusic Podcast. I'm your host, Jalen.
I'm your other host, Marco.
And we have a very, very special guest with us today. She is phenomenal, super talented, very involved in the music scene here in Charleston. Had the opportunity of meeting her at, it's called Creative Mornings. It's like a creative social networking event. I've been to multiple Creative Mornings by now. And Marco, you actually attended one with me also. But I met this woman at a Creative Mornings and was introduced to her by a good friend of mine, also guitarist Ashton Lowry. She is a vocalist. She is a concert and event producer for performing artists. She's also the program coordinator for Ohm Radio. Also has affiliation with Pure Concert Series and Fest. She's very involved in the music and art scene here in Charleston. I'm very, very happy to have her on. Miss Zandrina Dunning, how are you?
Hey guys, thank y'all so much for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Of course. This was definitely like on my bucket list as far as guests to have on the show because you're just doing great things here in the Charleston music scene. And I want you to, let's just go ahead and get into it. Give, the people your background, where you're from, and, your passion for music and the arts. How did that start?
Definitely. So I was born and raised in Boston, Massachusetts, but I came down here when I was very young. When people ask me where I'm from, if they ask, they're like, you don't sound like you're from here, that kind of thing. So I started school here in Charleston, actually in Somerville. And I was always involved in talent shows and things like that. And third grade was actually the first time I got on stage. And I don't know if everybody remembers, but it was during the time of Saddam Hussein. I know you guys probably weren't even here yet. I don't know how old y'all are, but MC Hammer had a song out called Can't Touch This. And I was MC Hammer on stage and I was dancing and it was crazy. And it was the start of something really, really special. So after that, I was in the talent shows, 4th, 5th grade, all that. And fast forward, I went to South Carolina State University and majored in music, merchandising, and management. That was the major when I first got in there. And then when I left, it was called music industry. So that's what the degree says. So a lot of people don't know, but I actually went to school for this as well. The major was that, but I also specified in vocal music too, because you had to, kind of be involved in voice or an instrument, that kind of thing. So after school, I graduated, went to Atlanta, moved to Atlanta, was there for 3 years and really got my feet wet in the industry. Worked with a few people, recorded a couple of things. And then it was just too much. Atlanta it's beautiful for some people, but for me, it was just a little bit too much. So I came back home to Charleston and started my company, the ZD Experience, in 2013. And been a concert and event producer ever since, doing tribute shows, tributes to girl groups from the 1970s to today, tributes to Janet Jackson, Tina Turner, Luther Vandross, Aretha Franklin, Anita Baker, that kind of thing. And most recently, we did the Piccolo Spoleto finale, where we featured I guess you can say a put together group called Comfortably Pink, and it was a tribute to Pink Floyd. Just been doing all of that and the vocalist as well. And, just mixing it all in and dealing with community. Community is at the center of all of it. So I'm really grateful for the life that, God chose for me.
That's all amazing. You touched on a lot of great stuff. Mark, I want you to go first because she talked about how she's from Boston and she mentioned Pink Floyd. And I know you identify heavily with both of those things.
Nice. Yeah. That's why you smiled. I got you.
Yeah. So we're both massholes. How about that? I'm also from Boston too. So when you said that, I was like, oh, there you go. And yeah, I love Pink Floyd. So the tribute show. And I saw that there was some show recently in Hampton Park for Dark Side of the Moon because it was the 50th anniversary. Were you involved with that?
Yeah, that's the show that we produced.
Oh, that's the one.
Yeah.
Okay. One of my coworkers went to it and I was like, Oh, I really want to go, but then I was DJing that night. But
Yeah, I got it.
yeah.
Yeah, it was amazing. I was told that it was the biggest show that they've had, the biggest finale that Piccolo Spoleto has had in a very long time. So it was an
Wow.
honor, truly. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. That's great. That's great.
Thanks.
Yeah. So I'll hand it back to you, Jalen.
Okay. Wow. I don't even know where to start. Like, so you mentioned how you went to school here in Somerville, right? At one point in your
Yeah,
life?
I went to elementary, middle, high school, that kind of thing. And then after graduating from high school, I went to South Carolina State University. Go
Gotcha.
Bulldogs.
Gotcha. Because I live in Somerville. Marco lives in Charleston.
Nice.
And South Carolina State, we've actually had a number of guests on our show that are from South Carolina State. And I have friends that are musicians as well that went to South Carolina State.
Nice. Yeah,
And
there's a bunch of them that came out of that school, man. It's beautiful. It really is.
like the band is everything. The band is phenomenal there. And then to hear you mention how, when you got to school, you majored in music industry. I guess what kind of drove you to that point? Because, when I got to College of Charleston, I majored in arts management with the concentration being the music industry, and Marco is business administration with also arts management as a minor. So because a lot of musicians, when they get to college, a lot of musicians think that, oh, I need to major in music or performance or composition. But I wouldn't say a lot, but there's some that don't know that the music business and the music industry and the arts management programs exist as well. So I guess what inspired you to do that?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I went to Upward Bound at the College of Charleston, and I had a few of my counselors that went to South Carolina State, and they took me there, and I fell in love. And I mean, I fell in love with the school, number one. And then, I heard they had a music program, and then I heard that they had a music industry program. And, I didn't want to major in performance. I didn't want to major in, composition. I mean, those are all great things, but I really wanted to get to the business side of it, because throughout it all, I was still performing. While I was at South Carolina State, I was performing, and I'm just like, I want to know the background of it. I want to know the ins and outs of everything. I don't just want to be a performer. I have an interest in all of it. So when I found out that they had a music industry program, I was all over it, and I also found out that that was one of the hardest majors at South Carolina State. And a lot of people got out in 5 years, 6 years. And it was kind of evident when I got in there. And I believe it was a new program, actually. So that was pretty cool. But I graduated in 4 years, myself and my best friend who passed away in 2014, Terrence Reed. And I mean, it was amazing. It was very, very tough because we had to, go through the Foreman analysis, the ear training and sight singing, that whole thing. So we had to get that foundation, that basis. And then, we got to the music business of it all. But a lot of people, even though that major was tough, you get a lot of your training hands-on, so you can graduate with the degrees all day long, but until you're in the field, you don't really understand it until you get there. So it was great to graduate from there and then go on to Atlanta, and really it's like hit the ground running, that kind of thing. So yeah.
Yeah, because with the music industry and the music business degree, you really do learn like the ins and outs, and you get the hands-on like experience pretty much like the first day of learning about it. And that's really cool that you participated in Upward Bound at College of Charleston. Everything comes full circle is what I always say. But so because maybe you can agree with this, but with the music side of it all, as far as the creative side, performing, that comes more natural to you, and you're always going to continue to study that and be inspired by that and think of new ways to